Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive. We're jumping straight into the real meat of round 5 of the Rugby Championship today. We've really dug into the analysis, looking at those Team of the Week selections and, what they actually mean. And look, this round showed us some incredible dominance, some amazing talent, and definitely some youth stepping up. Before we get stuck in, though, just a quick reminder, make sure you hit subscribe to Rugby Obsession so you don't miss out on our future deep dives.
Yeah, absolutely. And the sources this week, well, they paint a really stark picture, don't they? You basically had two teams, South Africa and New Zealand, just completely running the show. But the big story, the one everyone's talking about, has to be that young Springbok fly half. I mean, the descriptions were just mercurial, incredible, exquisite. You don't hear that every day.
No, you really don't. So our mission today is to look beyond just who won and lost. We want to unpack who really earned their spot, why those performances were so key, and what it tells us about the state of play in the championship right now.
Okay, so let's kick off with that big picture from round 5. You had South Africa really laying down a marker in Durban, and then New Zealand, well, they ground out that Bledisloe win against Australia. Hard fought. But the thing that immediately hits you is just who made up this team of the week.
It tells you almost everything you need to know about the weekend, doesn't it? The final tally, according to the analysis, was 8 All Blacks, 6 Springboks, and just the one player from Australia, with Argentina completely missing out. I mean, 14 out of 15 from just 2 teams, that's a significant gap in performance for that round. Yeah, it really highlights the difference. And interestingly, the way they won was quite different too. South Africa didn't just beat Argentina. The sources say they did it with some style, which isn't always their first priority, is it? The analysis pointed to individual genius being the driver there. That feels like a bit of a shift.
It does.
Yeah.
And then you contrast that with the All Blacks. Their win felt more about key individuals stepping up at the right moments. The sources kept mentioning Cam Roigard and the Clarks giving them that spark. But maybe the deeper point was how New Zealand, yet again, kind of exposed those ongoing halfback problems for Australia. Their ability to just bring in players who change the game is, well, it's why they're so consistently good.
Right. But speaking of individual genius, we absolutely have to talk about the player who, like you said, lit up the weekend. There was really no debate about the player of the week, was there?
Not at all.
Yeah.
It was Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu, the Springboks fly half.
Right.
And the language used,
Yeah.
honestly, mercurial, incredible, exquisite. It's pretty full on.
It really is, but, you look at why they were saying that, and it was his running game. The analysis we saw suggested it might have been the best running performance from a test number 10 in quite some time. It wasn't just passing. He was attacking, taking players on. That pace and footwork, it just seemed to unlock everything for the Boks. Turned a good win into a real statement.
Exactly. And that's the tactical brilliance, isn't it? His running threat created uncertainty, gave them front football, which, let's be honest, they sometimes struggle to generate consistently. So it's no surprise you had someone like All Blacks legend Jeff Wilson calling him a superstar in the making. When a rival great says that, you take notice. Huge potential there.
Okay, but let's pump the brakes a little. How much can we really read into one performance? I mean, was the Argentinian defense maybe just set up for him to exploit? A bit loose.
Yeah.
What did the more grounded experts make of it?
Yeah, that's a fair point. And that's where you get the crucial context from guys like Nick Mallett and Jean de Villiers. Mallett pointed out, quite rightly, that everything was pretty much perfect in Durban. Forwards on top, conditions good. He basically said, look, the next test against tougher opposition, that'll be the real measure. And he was clear. Sacha isn't the book's first choice 10 just yet.
Right. So an amazing display, but maybe in slightly favorable circumstances.
Pretty much. And de Villiers sort of echoed that. He said the youngster still needs to grow, and you can kind of read between the lines there, comparing him to Manny Libek's experience in game management. Sacha brings the excitement, definitely, but the feeling is Libek offers more structure when things get really tight. So the big question is, can Sacha keep that magic going and deliver the control against top-tier organized defenses?
Yeah. That whole debate around the Springboks number 10 jersey, that youthful flair versus the experienced head, that's definitely the most fascinating thing to come out of this round for the long term. We'd love to hear what you think about this. Let us know who you thought was the standout player of the week. And while you're thinking about it, please hit subscribe to Rugby Obsession to keep these deep dives coming.
Okay, so moving on from the headline act, let's look at the rest of this star-studded lineup. Starting in the back line, where New Zealand really dominated selections. At fullback, Will Jordan got the nod. And the analysis is pretty straightforward here. He's just arguably the best back three player in the world right now. Didn't even need to score this week to prove it. Though, you have to say, Damian Willemse ran him incredibly close. He pushed hard for that 15 jersey.
Yeah, Willemse was good. And then, sticking with the centers, Jordy Barrett at 12. The sources called him the glue. And that's not just a throwaway comment. It means he was immense defensively, shutting things down, and also really solid under the high ball. He just neutralized a lot of what Australia were trying to do.
Spot on. And then out wide, Leroy Carter at 14. This was an interesting one. He got picked ahead of Cheslin Colby, who actually set up a pretty deadly try chance. But Carter's selection was all about his work rate, his sheer output. The stats were amazing. Beat 4 defenders, 10 carries, crucial aerial takes, didn't miss a tackle. Sometimes that consistent high-level work just edges out the moments of magic, you know?
Absolutely. And we can't forget the guy who really changed the game's tempo for the All Blacks, Cam Roigard at scrum half. The sources were really clear they missed his speed, his intent off the bench. When he came on, you could just feel the pace lift. He absolutely shifted the dynamic.
Definitely. So if those are the finishers, let's talk about the guys up front who provided that platform, especially for South Africa. Their forward pack looked revitalized, partly thanks to some key players coming back.
Right.
Jasper Wise at number 8, for instance. His return was huge. He brought back those barreling focal carries they'd been missing, just direct, powerful running that gets them over the gain line and gives that fly half, whoever it is, space to work. Massive impact.
And the engine room was firing, too. Ruan Nortje at lock, number 5. What a performance. The analysis specifically mentioned that Los Pumas actually had the best line-out stats in the championship before this game, and Nortje just, well, he dismantled it.
Yeah, that's a perfect example of a strategic impact, right? He wasn't just nicking the oddball. He was disrupting their whole system, the timing, the calls, forcing errors. He completely shut down a major attacking weapon for Argentina. That makes him pretty essential for Rassie Erasmus now, you'd think.
You would. And then there's the flanker, Pieter-Steph du Toit at 6. I loved the comparison in the source material here. It was like, if Sacha won the match with his flair, PSDT was the one who put them in the position to win it with sheer hard graft. Tireless, huge hits, brilliant support play. Just relentless.
He really is. And you can't talk about back rowers without mentioning Ardie Savea at 7 for the All Blacks. We know he's world-class at number 8, but the sources called his performance interplanetary at 7. Which sounds a bit over the top, but what it means is playing on the flank just unleashed his all-court game even more. He was everywhere making plays, turnovers, carries, a proper rugby genius, adapting his role. It's quite the contrast to Fraser McWright for Australia, who, by the way, made an incredible 24 tackles. But Savea's impact on the game was just on another level.
Yeah, Savea was immense. And finally, a mention for James Slipper at loosehead prop, obviously a huge milestone, his 150th cap, which is just phenomenal. But the selection wasn't just sentimental. The sources pointed out he had a really busy game, high work rate, and honestly, in a round where no single loosehead totally dominated, Slipper's consistency and effort just getting through the work earned him that spot.
That's a great point. Slipper's selection kind of reminds you that, especially up front, sometimes it's just about relentless hard work and consistency, which is an interesting contrast to all the hype around the player of the week, isn't it?
It really is. So wrapping this all up, what's the big takeaway from round 5? It feels like it was a round defined by some real individual brilliance, but underpinned by the power of the Springboks forwards getting back to their best and the sheer depth of the All Blacks. And we saw youth like Feinberg-Mngomezulu grab the headlines, but only because guys like Wise and Nortje were laying that platform.
Exactly. The sources celebrated the brilliance, but also rightly added that layer of caution. Which leaves us with a really interesting question for you to think about. Considering that caution from someone like Nick Mallett about handling pressure and what a team like the Springboks needs to win consistently, who's going to be more influential for them at number 10 in the long run? Is it the known quantity, the experience of Manny Libak, or is it this incredible young running talent, Sacha Feinberg-Mngomezulu? Something to ponder.
Definitely something to ponder. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the Rugby Championship Team of the Week. Before you head off, please do take a second to subscribe to Rugby Obsession on whatever platform you use. It really helps us keep bringing you this analysis. Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we will look forward to you listening to our next episode.